What's up, guys? Welcome today to the show. We're going to be going over some buy low aging wide receivers, right? These wide receivers that are getting up there in age and how we want to acquire them this offseason for your Dynasty roster. We went over some veteran running backs earlier in the week, so I figured I would do the wideout section of the show as well. So before we get going, please subscribe, like the video. Any help really means a lot. But let's get this kicked off with my first aging wide receiver buy low this offseason. How about Deebo Samuel, KTC wide receiver 24? Now, I think for Deebo, I just really like his role on that offense, right? When you watch the Niners, that team doesn't really function too well when Deebo leaves the field. Now, some may say he is a better real-life NFL receiver for his team than a fantasy wide receiver, but he has immense spike weeks that can really win you any sort of matchup. So I think for the price he's going at right now, I really don't mind buying Deebo if you're kind of looking for that elite, a little riskier wide receiver 2, 3 for your team. Let's say you have a safer wide receiver 1 that catches a lot of balls like an Amon-Ra, right? I think getting Deebo on your roster as maybe wide receiver 3 right now in the offseason could really put you into that next level. So what's a trade or a value for Deebo Samuel this offseason? How about just 110 straight up? This basically says it's dead even on KTC. And when it comes down to it, I mean, I like 110. I think there's some decent assets available, but they're still unsure. Whereas we know with Deebo that you're going to get a couple more years of elite fantasy production. And there's still no guarantee that even after those couple years that he isn't able to put up some numbers. So next on this list of aging wide receivers, how about Stefon Diggs, right? Stefon Diggs has gotten so much hate since he basically collapsed fantasy-wise the second half of the season. But I just feel from watching those games that it is not really Diggs's fault. I mean, maybe he has lost a tiny step on some of those deep balls. You know, he is aging, and I'm not going to pretend that he's the same player he was 3 years ago, but they kind of just phased him out of the offense as to no result of his own. I mean, he was getting open mostly. They just weren't really looking for him. So I either think that's not going to be as much of an issue. I think things may return kind of more in the middle ground of what he used to be and what he was the second half of the season. Or if for some reason he does get moved, I do still think he's a very good route runner. And I think he still has some years left to put up some elite numbers for your fantasy team. How about we trade the 2-2 to go get Stefon Diggs? Very similar to the 110. I just feel at this range in drafts, of course, there is upside, but there is still so much risk that I really don't mind moving some of these picks if you are a contending team to go get an asset that will be an every week starter for you for the next year or two. Now, third wide receiver today, probably the cheapest one on the show. How about DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver 56 on KTC? I just think that's super low. Now, Hopkins on the tail end of his career, but I do think he saw a small resurgence with Levis at the helm for the Titans. I like the new offensive coordinator coming over from Cincinnati, obviously Callahan getting the head coaching job. So I still think Levis is going to look for Hopkins in this offense next year. And I think Hopkins really isn't too pricey to acquire right now. How about we trade Gabe Davis for Hopkins? This actually says the trade favors the Gabe Davis team, which might make it even easier to get done. I'm completely out on Gabe Davis. I think he's going to hit free agency, become a Valdez-Scantling type guy, and not really put up anything more for your team. So I am very okay moving off Gabe Davis right now and just cutting bait and getting someone who I can start on my team next year. Next, Keenan Allen, man, this dude completely went off last season. He may be slightly harder to get just because of Harbaugh coming to the Chargers and all of the hype surrounding that. But how about for Keenan Allen, we trade a mid-2024 second? I think this could get done with the right trading partner. I do not think every team would do this trade. Obviously, if they are a competing team, it's going to be hard for them to move off Keenan Allen. But if they're rebuilding, retooling, maybe trying to get a little younger, I could totally see someone moving off Keenan Allen for a mid-second, especially if you maybe wait till mid-rookie drafts when these picks really, really start to catch people's attention and they get really thirsty for draft picks. And the last one on the show today, how about Chris Godwin, wide receiver 34? Now, Godwin kind of was outshined by Mike Evans this year, and rightfully so. Evans looked like a complete stud. But I just think Chris Godwin's pretty safe. And a lot of us tend to think, especially some of the experts tend to feel that Mike Evans may be on a different team next year. And I don't necessarily know if the Buccaneers are going to add a wide receiver in free agency to really overtake Godwin. I do like Trey Palmer on that team, but Godwin with no Evans may see a slightly more elite role than he saw this season. So how about we move an early second for Chris Godwin? Now, I think this has to do that he's slightly younger than the Keenan Allen, Stefon Diggs, that the early second makes him slightly more expensive than someone like Keenan Allen, but he's only 28, and I still think you're getting a good 3 more years out of Chris Godwin. He's still a very solid player. Baker probably returns to that team and not too much gets shaken up offensively, although they do have to replace their offensive coordinator, obviously, with him going to the Panthers. So thank you guys for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Please, please, please subscribe, follow, like, share this video around to your friends. It means so much. And thanks for tuning in. Go win your league next year. Have a good day.